Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Police Headquarters. I'm First Deputy Commissioner Alfonso Wright. I am so pleased to have United States Senator Kristen Gillibrand here. I'm glad she's recognized that how important it is for child care for our officers. It's a challenge for our officers, and they work so hard, so anything that helps, and that is, like I said, we all have faced challenges with child care. We work different shifts. I have officers that's behind me, and they can explain and tell you about the challenges of child care. And also, I think this is a great tool to help us with recruiting. Now, I mean, we already have the best job in the world, but now to offer maybe that assistance with child care, that's great. Without further, I'll introduce you to U.S. Senator Kristen Gillibrand.
Thank you so much. Thank you. A nice little podium for me. Thank you. Well, it's an honor to be here and a privilege to be able to stand with our men and women in blue. These dedicated public servants put their lives on the line every single day to keep this community safe. And today we're making clear that we support them, we value them, and we want what's best for them and their families. Before I go any further, I want to say congratulations to today's Police Academy graduates. And I want to thank Lieutenant Michelle Anderson, Community Officers Andrea Anderson and Margaret Alvarado, Officer John Kelly, Deputy Mayor Dr. Callie Johnson, First Deputy Police Commissioner of Operations Alfonso Wright, Western New York Women's Foundation CEO Sherry Scavone, Western New York Women's Foundation Board Member Stacy Lewis, Deputy Council Executive Lisa Chimera, sorry, got that wrong, and all of you for joining us. I really appreciate everyone's commitment standing with me today to support our police officers, especially when they face so many challenges in their work and daily lives. Long hours, non-traditional work schedules, and unexpected overtime can take an enormous toll, not just on them, but also on their families. As a result of these and other challenges, police departments across New York are having challenges with workforce shortages. Here in Buffalo, for example, the police department was understaffed by about 100 officers in 2022. But we know that one way to help retain and attract more talent is to offer better and more affordable access to high-quality childcare. Recent surveys show that nearly 20% of police officers are seeking to leave the profession, and at one major metropolitan police department, more than half of the officers reported to having to leave or miss work because of child care issues. It's an issue that disproportionately impacts women, who make up about 12% of sworn officers and only 3% of police leadership. Offering child care is a powerful recruitment tool and retention tool, and it's an essential way to promote public safety while maintaining a stable law enforcement workforce. We wrote a bill called Providing Child Care for Police Officers Act to create $24 million in federal funding over the next 5 years to help police departments provide child care services to the children of police officers. It would provide grants for these departments to open their own child care facilities or contract with child care centers for their officers and their families from the local child care centers. 20% of that total funding is dedicated to forces employing fewer than 200 officers to assist agencies that may be smaller or located in rural areas, which have even bigger challenges for access. Policing is one of the most important roles we have in our communities, one of the most noble professions there is. Those who do this work should have the support they need to do it well. Our bill will provide the flexibility, and it will empower police departments to retain their personnel and make sure we recruit the best talent into our law enforcement agencies. I want to thank all of you again for joining us, and I look forward to the work we will do to pass this legislation. I would now like to bring up Deputy County Executive Lisa Chimera from Erie County. Thank you, Senator. This might be awkward. Let's move these for you, because I think it's going to be too unstable. Yeah, let's move it. Especially with heels. You don't want that. Yeah, let's not have any headers.
No.
No headers.
No. know. Good morning. I would first like to thank Senator Gillibrand for this bipartisan bill providing Child Care for Police Officers Act. It could not be more timely. The issue of child care has been a major issue in Erie County, and it has been a top priority in the work that we're doing with our Live Well Erie initiative. So as a daughter of a former police officer, my father was a police officer for 34 years. He worked the midnight shift. And I can tell you that my mother, because he worked the midnight shift, was unable to work. And I was always so proud of my father's profession. He protected his community each and every day. He was a huge part of the community. He had relationships with community members. His work was extremely important. So we really need to do whatever we can to not only recruit police officers into this most noble field, but also retain them. And I think that providing this child care opportunity and the necessary funding will do just that. Senator Gillibrand already spoke about how we can incentivize women to become a police officer. And that number, 12% of sworn officers and 3% in leadership roles, is a number that I think is unacceptable. And I think that if the issue is child care, then we need to do something about it. We need to make sure that we give women opportunities to enter this profession and stay in this profession. So Senator Gillibrand, thank you. We look forward to this, and we appreciate you being here today and the sponsorship of this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. I would now like to introduce somebody who I work closely with, Deputy Mayor Dr. Kelly Johnson.
Thank you so much for that introduction. It is an honor to be here on behalf of Mayor Byron Brown, and thank you so much, Senator Gillibrand, for being here as we champion the importance of passing this bipartisan bill, the Providing Child Care for Police Officers Act. This bill directly addresses the unprecedented staffing shortages New York police departments are facing by providing $24 million in funding to establish a grant pilot program to provide child care services to enhance recruit and retention efforts for our brave and hardworking police officers. We have a number of local police officers who would benefit from this pilot child care program and see it as an incentive, and it would assist in our existing workforce while cultivating the next generation of future leaders. So again, we thank Senator Gillibrand for introducing this bipartisan bill, the Providing Child Care for Police Officers Act, and champion the passing of this bill for the benefit and prosperity of our police officers, our youth, and our society. At this time, I would like to introduce Sherry Scavone, CEO of the West New York Women's Foundation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I want to first applaud and extend the community's gratitude to the senator. If you haven't read her book, and you should, you know that when the senator worked long hours, she had to pick up her son and lean her head into the Senate chambers to vote because children weren't allowed on the chamber floor. And so creative, but not ideal. And she has used that to understand the significance of childcare in building prosperous communities, promoting racial, economic, and gender equity, as well as our child's well-being. And let us remember, this is our future workforce. It's really an honor to work with the senator to drive these bipartisan solutions. And this Providing Child Care for Police Officers Act to support the men and women who put their lives on the line and keep our communities safe is an innovative solution. Hopefully, it's also a successful pilot that can inform child care solutions for similar occupations working long and non-traditional hours. So we know that accessible, affordable, quality child care is crucial for children's early brain development and parents' ability to work. However, the current system fails both, leading to low labor force participation, hiring challenges, and economic strain. In today's society, the existing child care infrastructure is struggling mightily to meet the needs of children, parents, and educators, resulting in adverse consequences for families, employers, and communities alike. And as you have heard, we know that insufficient access to childcare disproportionately affects women's workforce participation, widening the gender wage gap and hindering career progression and economic security. The underrepresentation of women in policing also undermines public safety. Consider that over the course of her lifetime, a mother with one child earns 28% less than a woman without children, and each additional child decreases her lifetime earnings by another 3%. Women are more likely than men to reduce their work hours or leave the workforce entirely when families cannot find or afford childcare. And a recent poll found that 59% of part-time or non-working parents say they'd go back to work full-time if they had access to quality childcare at a reasonable cost. According to your own 2022 Buffalo Police Department annual report, 20% of sworn police and 80% of department support staff are female. As you heard, only 3% of top positions are held by women. We need to applaud our own Stacy Buford, having been one of them with 4 children. And 1 in 5 police officers consider leaving their jobs because of childcare concerns. Estimated cost to recruit and train police officers is 1 to 5 times annual salary per recruit. And this investment is completely lost without essential supports. Study of police officers right here in Buffalo, New York also suggests that increased work-family conflict, such as struggling with childcare, significantly predicts poor psychological health and increased stress to our police officers. So childcare needs are not linear, especially for professions such as law enforcement working all different hours and shifts during nights, weekends, holidays, including extra long shifts and overtime. This makes finding consistent, reliable childcare especially difficult. And we know the complexities of childcare system highlighted by disparities in access and affordability and quality that persist across different regions. As we recently, the Western New York Women's Foundation recently reported in our Pathways to Progress, Accelerating the Possibilities for Childcare report, there is an urgent need for policy reforms and investments that prioritize the valuing of compensation of caregivers, support working families, and strengthen our economy. Currently, we invest 9 times more per child per year in the K through 12 system than we do for early childhood and education. Senator Gillibrand's bill and the U.S. investment would dramatically help increase public safety by reducing barriers to a career in law enforcement, especially for women, and by ensuring the best talent is recruited into our police departments. So thank you, Senator Gillibrand, for being a real champion and understanding that childcare is the business on which all other businesses, including our essential law enforcement and public safety, function.
Thank you. We're happy to answer any on-topic questions for anyone who's up here.
So, just looking at $24 million, how would that work as far as disbursement goes? Would it go by police stations? Would individual officers apply for?
No, the police station could apply, or a not-for-profit could apply, or a caregiving organization or company could apply to augment the care they're offering. So for example, a lot of police officers, they might have to be at work by 5 a.m. and there's no daycare center open at 5 a.m. So we would need maybe an existing daycare to say we'll open at 4:30 to accommodate these officers, and we'll stay open until 8 p.m. to accommodate other people's shifts. That's the kind of partnerships this money is intended for. If the police department has enough police officers that have young children, they might decide to open their own daycare center. That could be 24/7, for example. So it's really flexible. So whatever suits the needs of any department, they could apply for money to meet that need.
Would it essentially be like a grant application?
Grant application.
You tell them the program that you
Yep.
want to do.
And it would be competitive. So you'd apply, and other places would apply too. And hopefully it would be a good start. And if we need more money for the program, we would advocate for more money.
You touch on a good point there, because the first thing I'm thinking is it's not just money that is the barrier to child care, but availability, especially for police officers who may be called into overtime
Yep.
at a moment's notice, right? So can you talk a little bit about how availability,
Well,
like immediate availability?
Yeah,
will
some
work?
cities right now don't have enough slots for the number of kids who want to be in daycare. So post-pandemic, we had 1 slot for every 8 kids that needed one, because childcare centers were so decimated. Because during COVID, nobody brought their kids to daycare, so a lot of them had to close. And so we just have invested quite a bit of money over the last couple of years to rebuild the childcare center network. But as I think it was Sherry mentioned, our childcare workers get paid so little. It's just not a living wage. It's not a career that people can afford. And so we need to increase their pay. So we want pay parity with other teachers, so that they have more income, so they choose early childhood education as a career.
Can we hear from maybe some of the officers?
Yeah.
I noticed
Everyone wants to share your story.
they were shaking their heads when you were going over some of the benefits of it. So how would this benefit you?
Well, my youngest children, 22 and 18, but I do remember when I was going through the academy and first got on, you always worry about your families. You're responding to a call for someone else's family when you're worried about your families too if you don't have adequate child care. So I do believe this bill will allow a lot of female officers to show up not just physically but mentally on the job, because you're secure in knowing that your children is being taken care of.
That's a good point.
Could PPD talk a little bit about the child care services that you have or are offering right now and how this could supplement it?
You know.
As far as I know, we're not offering that right now, so that's why we're so excited about it. Another thing, you have officers that sometimes they have to decide, well, I'll have to use my sick time because I don't have anybody to watch my child. So this is a step in the right direction. It's kind of motivated. Thank you so much, Senator, but right now we don't, that I know of.
Deputy Mayor, do you know if we have enough childcare slots in Buffalo for the need overall? Do you know if there's a childcare desert at all, any parts of Buffalo?
There are shortages. I think Sherry Scavone, this is her area of expertise.
It is.
Yeah, Sherry, do you want to
Yeah,
speak to that?
I would just say that there has been a childcare desert in most of New York. As the senator said, there was one slot, infant and toddler, for every 7 needed pre-pandemic, and we think it's probably 1 in 9. Last weekend, there was a horrific fire of a childcare center that had 140 children in it, and I was out of the area, and my immediate first thought was, oh my God, what are those parents going to do on Monday morning? There are no extra slots in this area, and in fact, we know that in the pandemic, 2 million women left the workforce, and they've been very slow to return because of that. I think the most important part of that, to the senator's point, is we have about 90% of the child care centers in the state have classrooms, but they cannot hire people to work in them because we undervalue child care, and the pay is so low that they can't get teachers. So those classrooms are sitting empty right now.
So in Washington, we're working on legislation to increase the pay for child care workers, to create an investment so that communities can pay our child care workers more. It's really an economic issue. If you believe a child care center is needed for people to go to work, it's part of the infrastructure of work. And we've never looked at child care that way, and it's never been economic. We pay the child care workers as little as possible, and they still don't make any money. So that's why we have a shortage, because it's not a money-making business. But if we accept the fact that this is necessary for work, then we should invest in it just like we invest in roads and bridges and electric grids and high-speed rail and high-speed internet, because all of those are necessary for work, and so is childcare. It's part of the fabric of society, so we should be investing much more. Go ahead.
And are there going to be other assistances offered for infrastructure for jobs like Buffalo Fire, Buffalo PD that have unpredictable schedules, or have to make a 1 o'clock show up for a call out and a 9 a.m. show up for court? Will there be structures put in place to help specialty jobs like this get childcare up and running, because there's not going to be a 9 to 5 like you said?
Yeah. So the hope is, I did this same type of legislation for our military, because on the military bases, you got to report to duty at 4 a.m. often. Like, it's very difficult hours. And so we changed the rules for these bases and created money to make sure their childcare was open 24/7. I think if we start with law enforcement, we can extend it to first responders, and we can extend it to other industries that have these 24/7 requirements. We did it during the pandemic. We surged resources to childcare for the nurses and the doctors and the EMTs and the people who worked in hospitals, because they were working 24/7, and they were literally keeping the lights of society on during COVID. And so we began to understand how important this issue is. So I'm hoping this can be a first step, not a last step, and this can be the beginning of recognizing this is essential for work. Anything else? Well, okay. Well, let me say goodbye to these guys and I'm going to stand. Any off topic?